Good afternoon. I will call to order the March 27th meeting of the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. First item, items 2, items from the chairman. I don't have anything today. Item 3 is the minutes from the February 27th meeting. Do we have any
approval?
Second.
Any changes or corrections? Cast your vote.
I'm sorry. Talking. Not paying attention. Long day. There we go.
Has it been a long day already? And it passes unanimously. Item 4 is a consent docket. We have an oil and gas revenue report and a Oklahoma River Corridor events update.
Move approval of both items.
Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item 5 is primary agenda items. Receive an update from City Care, Inc. on Crystal Lake Park. I believe we have Rachel Freeman here today. Give us that. Welcome.
Hi. David said I might have to move this down. I think he was calling me short. Rachel Freeman, Chief Operating Officer with City Care. Our address is 2400 General Pershing Boulevard in Oklahoma City. So I'm here to give you an update on Crystal Lake. Crystal Lake, we have continued to maintain an operating budget of $85,000 a year to maintain the lake. In 2017, we applied for and were awarded a grant with OCCF and Parks and Public Spaces Initiative for $25,000 to expand a green space at the park because we were having more and more kids out there and we needed to eliminate some sandburs and create a green space for them to play and a flexible space to play sports and do other things. That work is still being completed by Don Eckroat. And the last piece of that we have discovered in a meeting last week that we need an irrigation system that's going to cost us about $20,000. So we went to our board on Monday of this week to let them know that we need to find a funding source for that so that we can maintain that field and keep it in great shape. Last year we had 180 campers out there, and those campers are youth that are at risk for school failure. They typically come from our Whiz Kids program, which is another program of City Care. We mentor about 900 kids every week, and so that's primarily where our campers come from. And we had our spring fling out there. We had about 1,800 families, or 1,800 people out there. Those were Whiz Kids and their families for spring fling. Rentals are still picking up. One thing that we need to do is to complete some ADA compliance things that were brought to our attention by David. We met last fall, completed some of those in 2017 with an agreement that we would have everything done in 2018. We have a plan for that, funding for that, and we're taking care of that. The last piece that will be outstanding after 2018 is the archery stand. That's not owned by City Care, so we have let the owner know that they'll need to get in compliance with ADA on that by the beginning of 2019 or take the structure down. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is that I have had a couple meetings with Oklahoma City Housing Authority that are really exciting and have to do with our expansion plans for Crystal Lake. We met with OCHA, and what they are interested in doing is having Whiz Kids sites at all of their housing developments, and we're very interested in doing that. This would be a new model for us. We typically do those in church settings, but the housing developments already have community centers that we would love to do that in. In order to do that and serve them well, we need to wrap around services year-round. So when they're in school breaks, summertime, and fall break, and spring break, and the natural place to do that is Crystal Lake. So we again went to our board yesterday and let them know our plans that in order to serve an additional several hundred children a year that we needed to expand capacity at Crystal Lake quite a bit. So we're actively seeking funding to do that. We'll start that partnership with them in the fall, and then the idea is that they would all attend FAST Camp in the summer of 19. That's everything I had, unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
So 900 students, anticipated growth to 1,100. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, so this year was the first year we had added WizKids sites in several years, and we added 5 new sites. So we've identified every DRF school, and then from there, we took a top 20 list that we prioritized, and those are the ones that we're focusing on trying to identify partners and mentors for at the moment.
Rachel, super happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
Really exciting, and thanks for everything that you're doing out there. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'd just like to say that I've worked hand in hand with City Care for a number of years on Crystal Lake. I think, from where we started years ago with all the tires and all the rubbish, they have just done incredible. I think the thing that we've always been never quite been able to reach was the programming, and I think they're real well on their way. I've worked with Housing Authority for a number of times, and when they called me in a week ago to kind of talk about this, I thought this is something I could have never envisioned, but I think it's 2 very, very good causes coming together, and I think Crystal Lake is great. So I really appreciate everything you all are doing, and I think it's a great model.
All right, thank you. Okay, we need a motion to receive that report. Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item B is to receive an update on a reclamation of the Prairie Park sand plant located at Northeast 50th Midwest Boulevard. Tim Dupuis? Dupuis.
That's close. Okay. I tell people you can call me what you like, so long as you say it with a smile. We're good. I'm Tom Dupuis with DeLisi Brothers Company, and I do all DeLisi's permitting and mine reclamation. And David had asked that I give you an update on where we're at on the Prairie Park sand plant that we have been mining for several years, and we finished mining, and so we're in the reclamation stages right now. And I guess y'all have screens in front of you. Get this thing to advance. Okay, of course, y'all are probably familiar where it's at. It's right on the North Canadian River. There we go. A little bit of site history. We purchased this sand mining operation from Nova Sand, who had leased from the city prior to in 1997. Then I permitted it in 1998, and we finished mining in 2016 and sales. And I began the reclamation last year, and we leased it from y'all. It's about 403 acres, roughly, that I'm reclaiming. This is what the site looked like prior to the start of reclamation when we still had a sand plant. You can see it off to your right. And then if you look off to the left, you'll see the dredge and a dredge line floating across the lake. We stopped mining there. That's the extent of where we're going. Just to the left of the lake, it's a high-pressure natural gas line that runs north and south, so that we lease actually more property on the other side, but it's not cost-effective to pick up the dredge, move it over that line, and get what little bit's there. So we terminated our operations. And at that point is when I started the reclamation. Oops, let me get out of that. And in working with the city and working with the parks folks and Cherry Ash and those guys, we came up with some main areas that we were going to address for future development of this site as a park. One being just the main lake area, sand volleyball area, some parking, some open lawn areas, some informal softball fields, picnic areas, swimming beach, a ropes course area, some natural areas that we're going to leave alone, some hiking bike trails, some walking trails, pedestrian bridge, and then just some bank sloping and native grasses. And what we're doing is we're developing this as a rough-in stage so that when we turn it over, we get our release from the Department of Mines and we turn the property back over to the city. It's ready to begin whatever park development that the city decides to choose. So this was the original concept by Terry Ash with the layout. And, you know, to the right were the ball fields and the beach is in the blue area. That was probably a little bit the most challenging. And then there's a ropes course up in the north east corner. The green line is going to be the main hike bike trail around the park. And then the red lines that you see on there going through the trees and all, those are going to be like walking trails. So what I've took that, and when I started doing the reclamation, I did a little bit of changes because of it wasn't in scale when Terry gave it to us. So I hired DTM contractors, and they come out and they started doing a layout. And just to the right of that white circle there, that's concrete paving that's going to be left for parking. Just to the right of that, you can see there's 2 ball diamonds laid out, and then 2 volleyball courts between the ball diamonds and the parking area. So what I did from that area, once I decided where everything was going to go, I took this map and I walked it out and drove the whole site out, and I identified a bunch of areas that are going to require work, cleanup, concrete removal, bridge building. And so once I had those all identified, we started working on those, and we started in the main area, which is just north of the concrete parking pad. We're doing some dirt work. Last year we started, and we're leveling it up. We're trying to put it into more of a rolling topography to match the surrounding areas, and a little more closer on the ball diamond layout just to the east of the concrete parking area. If you look there, it's hard to tell in the picture, but it's pretty fat, it's pretty developed. So I wanted a better aerial, so I had our engineers take the drone up and fly an aerial of it, and I cropped it into the existing aerial I had, and you can see the 2 ball field layouts, kind of the rough in. So they're taking shape. They'll be right adjacent to the parking area. And that's another close-up of it. You can see they're starting to take shape, and I'm going to get all those grassed and seeded with Bermuda. And so when I turn this over, it's going to be either natural native grasses or Bermuda or parking area or roadway. The next slide just shows some more dozer work that we're doing. And if you look up in the right-hand corner, that little inset, I got an arrow that shows where on the property I'm taking the picture. So this was last summer. As you can see, I'm starting to get some vegetation growing in pretty nice on the north side of that lake. That's looking north. Again, so some more growth, and we did the side sloping and the bank sloping prior to this, so you can see the grass is growing pretty well. And then that's kind of a marshy area that's connected to the lake that was fed by the river. And if you look in the right-hand side, I know it's hard to see, and I'll show you in another map, when the city did the river improvement project there, they cut off the flow from the river to the lake, which is good because when the river comes up and floods, it comes in and it puts a lot of water on the property. But we have this really nice wetland type of area, and you can see now a little better picture where the city did the river restoration work up by the bridge. But that's where we're at. I flew this picture. I had Aerial Oklahoma go up and fly it in January with no vegetation so I could identify work that needed to be done. And so I outlined on here for my earthwork contractor areas that he's got to do some more dozer work. We're improving the roadways, the hiking trails at this point. And then this map is what my guys I'll send out to do some picking, some cleanup, some tree clearing, some concrete removal and things like that. And so then we started doing some more lakeshore grading on the south side. This, I think it was in January and February. And this is looking kind of northwest. If you look across the lake, there's some more dirt work I got to do up on the other side. The vegetation hasn't taken over yet, so wintertime has been my prime dirt work time. So that as things start to come in, I don't have to disturb it and the vegetation can take over. That's looking due north. And then kind of east, and you can see the lake in this picture. There's a little island out there. And then some more dirt work, some more side sloping around the banks. It's going to be accessible to the water shore from all areas of the lake, cutting down all the high, unsafe walls. And this is not only for part of the park development, but also part of my Department of Mines reclamation plan. I've got to make this area safe as well. And then some more dirt work. And if you look straight across the lake, that's the development of the beach area, and I got a couple slides showing that, which is going to be indicated about where that star is. That's kind of looking a little bit south, and then looking west. That's, I'm going to bring in fresh sand, which I'm kind of kicking myself now because I'm a sand operator and I got to haul sand in to make a beach. Okay, proper prior planning, you know that theory, right? So, because I can't dredge any more sand, and we've hauled it all out. So I got to haul some in to make a beach. So that's okay, I'm good with that. So we're going to develop this area for a beach. And then just north of the beach, you can see where those 2 points of the ground kind of pinch off that little wetland area up there. I'm going to connect those two with a bridge, with a footbridge. And we're going to have some abutments on either side, some wing walls, and I'm having a bridge constructed by Contech. They designed it and they developed, and I ran it past the city engineers and got their approval on it. So when the bridge comes, we're doing the concrete work now the first week of April. When it shows up on site, I want to take a crane and I'll pick it right up off the truck and I'll set it in place. And that's kind of what it's going to look like. That's a picture from another similar type bridge at another location. So it's going to be kind of nice. It's going to span from one point across the water to the other, and it's going to be part of the hike bike trail. So that's going to be pretty nice. And then I'll do sculpting and earthwork around it. And then in the wooded area, the city has requested, they wanted some walking trails, some hiking trails, nature trails. So I contracted this beast. It's a $500,000 machine that goes in and it cuts trees down and it mulches them out. And it does a really great job, as you'll see here. Where the star is shown on that little map kind of shows where it's going into the wooded area. And come on, Fed. All good things must come to an end. Who's your IT guy, David? Well, you were just going to see the best part of this machine in action. All right, maybe it just caught up. This is there it is, just going through the woods. It's cutting a trail. And the beauty of this thing is not only does it lay down the trees that's in the path, but it also mulches it up and it makes a nice bed for walking on, as you'll see here. So the tree stump and everything right down to this is what I'm using to create a walking trail. And there he is coming in from another direction. And as these pictures show, when this thing greens up and the trees take over, it's going to be really nice. These are some pictures of the hiking trail that's going to be through the woods now. We did find some surprises in there. An early model 1960 Chevrolet for one. So maybe you want to leave that there for aesthetics or historical, I don't know. But I'm going to do you a favor and I'm going to pull it out and I'll get rid of that. But I will tell you, up in this area, the city's going to have to go in. There's a lot of stuff in metal and iron that's been in the woods for God knows how long, but everything that I run across, I'm going to haul out of there for you. But it's going to make a really nice walking trail. And so as of December 31st, I've spent about $320,000. The bridge that I'm putting in right now, about another $130,000. And then I'm figuring about another $150,000 worth of earthwork, seeding, watering, and that kind of stuff. So I'm guessing probably somewhere around $600,000 is what I'll spend on turning this thing, doing the reclamation. And then what I'll do is I'll file my release with the Department of Mines. We'll have an inspection with the mining folks and the city folks, and if everybody's happy with it, then they'll release my bond and terminate the permit, and it's yours to do as you like. And that's where we're at.
Very good. Looks terrific. I think it's going to be excellent.
A quick question about the beach and swimming and all. Do we test the water quality, or will...
Actually, the city has sent some folks out, and they've taken water samples. I couldn't tell you what they... And they actually took samples. Some of your Fish and Wildlife representatives took water. I do know the fishing's great, but as far as what they did with the samples, I have no idea, ma'am.
Would that be our responsibility, Dennis, to
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we'll get that done.
check on water? And does it have a name? Is this a new park for us? Does it have a...
Well, years ago, and if you remember back to Prairie Park, well, the Master of Pearls, String of Pearls concept, Prairie Park sand plant was going to be the Prairie Park Pearl in the string of pearls. And I guess that kind of went by the wayside years ago. I've only been in Oklahoma
We'll
for 20
probably
years.
take an item to the Parks Board to try to come up with a proper name.
Okay,
Yeah.
may have a name on it, good.
So, I think I've done about, I was counting, like 9 or 10 reclamation projects for Delisi in the 30 years I've been doing it, and this is one of my more exciting ones, because I got to bring sand in. So, got to live that one down. The lake is, just for your information, it is about 17 to 20 feet deep, and, I think it's going to be a nice piece of property for the city when we're done. And I hope to get it released sometime this year and turned over. That's my goal.
I just remember that when Willa used to sit here and we would talk about those out-of-bounds areas, and at that time we talked about Crystal Lake and what could happen on the east, and I just feel like we're getting there now. I think with the anchoring and with what City Care's doing with Crystal Lake, with that development, and what you're doing, getting ready to turn over this on the east side, so we'll kind of have those two bookends.
Sure.
I think that's really going to benefit, and with all the trails going in and all, I think we're really going to be very, very proud of these in another couple of years.
We're excited. I know you're all familiar with Delisi Park. It's another one of the older ones. I've been doing this for 30 years for the company, and like I said, this is really one of the funnest ones, because you really get to see something tangible, because most of the time we turn them over to a property owner if we lease the property, if we don't own it. So this will be fun to see done.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Good
Have
work.
a great day.
I need a motion to receive that update.
So move.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item C is the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority operating budget for fiscal year 18-19. This will be introduced today, and we'll adopt it next month. Do we have any questions on the budget? I need a motion to introduce.
Move the item.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item D is the MOU between the Riverfront Authority and the USS Oklahoma City Park Association. This has been on the last 2 months, and we deferred it. We are going to strike this item simply because the site that was identified in the MOU has been determined not to be the selection of site of choice, and so we're looking at another location on the river somewhere, and as soon as that, we're going to be working on that, but a new MOU is going to be coming forward that does not identify a site specific in the MOU. It'll just say that the agreement between the city and the Park Association will include the new site at that time. So I need a motion to strike this item. Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item E is a contract for professional engineering services with Triad for project MCO 586, which is our on-call engineer. This is a new contract with renewals again, I assume? Oh, okay.
This is the annual contract that we've looked at a number of times.
Yeah, we had gone through all of the renewals that were available on the older contracts, so this year they actually had to go back out for bid again and go through the selection process, and this is the result of that selection process.
Great. Move approval.
Second.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Items, do we have a claims docket? Yes, we do. I think we do. Item 6 is claims docket. Need a motion?
Move the item.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item 7 is additional items. Comments by staff. Doug, anything to add other than your written report?
The report is complete as written. I just wish Mr. Dupuy hadn't left so early. I would have asked him he could leave that machine there as well. But I appreciate your support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Doug? Motion to receive his report? Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Any trustee comments? Citizens to be heard. We have Tim Sawicki with us today. Tim approached David Birch and I in the last few weeks. Tim has formed a Friends of the Oklahoma River. Well, I'll let him tell the story of how that got started and why he's involved with it, but we decided we'd like to have him come and explain what that organization's purpose is and what they'd like to do with the river. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Chair, trustees. My name is Tim Sawicki. I'm a resident of Oklahoma City, Crown Heights neighborhood, 525 Northwest 40th Street. I'm here today as the founder, president, and chairman of the board of Friends of the Oklahoma River. And the genesis, well, I should start by saying by day I'm a corporate defense attorney at the firm Crowe & Dunlevy, located in downtown Oklahoma City. I represent midstream companies, pipeline companies, in litigation, regulatory compliance. By night, I am a pretty passionate, civically engaged person. I sit on the junior board of the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. I participate as a mentor for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and now being here 3 years and enjoying the Riverfront so much, decided to form an organization, a nonprofit organization that is fairly broad in its scope and generally is intended to act as a steward for the Oklahoma River. My background with nonprofits is pretty extensive. About 10 years ago, I worked for a corporation out of California called Lost Arrow Corporation. They own a clothing company called Patagonia. That corporation is committed to providing 1% of pre-tax profits to nonprofit organizations every year. And a young, fresh out of my undergrad degree, I got hired to review their grants that were received from nonprofit organizations. So through that process, I got to witness the development of many different nonprofit organizations, some that would approach with half-baked ideas on the back of napkins, some with better cooked ideas and better developed ideas. And I would guide them through the grant-making process and work on performance measures and really see the evolution of these nonprofit organizations. Then I moved to Wyoming and formed a nonprofit there called the Wyoming Conservation Corps, modeled off of the Civilian Conservation Corps of the New Deal. It was intended to employ, as in pay, University of Wyoming undergrad students to complete service learning projects on Wyoming's public lands. I saw a skill gap, or actually an intellectual and applied gap between the students at the University of Wyoming at their School of Energy Resources and their Environment and Natural Resources Department not having an applied knowledge of these public lands that they were going to work on, whether working in conjunction with BLM through oil and gas or the National Park Services in a more multiple use scope. Fast forward, my wife is a geologist. She was hired at Chesapeake Energy and still works there. And I moved here as an attorney 3 years ago. First thing I noticed when I moved here was the river. I mean, it's a gem. It's the crown jewel of the city. It's beautiful. The Boathouse District is gorgeous from an architectural perspective, and the riverfront from a recreational perspective attracted me because that's all I did in Wyoming was play outside. So what I do on the river is I bike a lot, I cycle with a group of friends, and I run quite a bit. And I've noticed in the 3 years I've been here that there's a lot of organizations tangentially related to the river. I mean, we heard from several today doing good work on the river. But I'd like to just continue to see the river become a point of attraction for a broader Oklahoma City, South Oklahoma City, North Oklahoma City, Northeast Oklahoma City. Having worked reviewing environmental grants previously, these Friends of Insert River organization, they exist all over the country. So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. But I think that now with the good work that's been put on the development of the river, There may be a need or a niche for an organization that connects all of these different groups and marshals resources to execute projects. And I'd say that's where this nonprofit is unique. Our mission is to connect diverse groups of people to the Oklahoma River through recreation, education, conservation, and public art. But our structure of our organization is very efficient. Our board of directors is composed of all fairly young people, fairly young professionals in Oklahoma City. From anesthesiologist is one of our board members, several lawyers, a VP over at Devon Energy, an in-house counsel at Sandridge, so all young people that use the river and are residents of Oklahoma City. What we want to do is take all these different groups that are working in parallel on the river, and we want to partner with them to execute various projects on the river that align with our mission of recreation, education, conservation, and public art. We're not going to have paid staff. I mean, we're essentially like a brain trust that executes projects on the river. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our 1023 form is pending. But we have a fairly conservative growth plan in the first several years. Our first year we plan on doing recreation. Our recreation kind of pillar will be regular meetups on the river for cycling, biking, walking. After those meetups, we will share coffee, maybe some pastries, and talk a little bit about the history of the river, initiatives on the river, and try to connect people in that sense through the recreation, but also through a networking opportunity to each other and to hopefully galvanize other initiatives on the river. The education aspect is a 2-year plan. We hope to develop a science curriculum on the river, an interdisciplinary science curriculum that focuses on river ecology, applied engineering. It's a unique river in that it is highly engineered. And we would like to offer that to Oklahoma City Public Schools to augment their existing science curriculum and maybe take a burden off of some of the deficiencies in some of those aspects at the Oklahoma City Public Schools. The conservation aspect, we plan on the first 2 years doing water quality monitoring. I've talked to Derek Johnson at Stormwater Quality, and we would like to set up stations along the river where we take, as citizen science, samples of the river and post it to our website, again, to promote transparency, connect people to the river, and make them aware of kind of what happens to their resource during high water events. And through that initiative, hope to, again, create a source of pride, a source of care in the community, a source of connection with the river. And the last aspect over the next 2 years, and this is probably our most exciting one at the moment, is public art. Public art is everywhere in Oklahoma City right now, from mural projects in the Plaza District to various statues throughout the city. The building of the OKC Contemporary, they broke ground just this past week. I think we think the public art transcends typical cultural boundaries in the city and can be another source of attracting people to the river. And what we envision, and there's not really a great precedent for it in the United States, is to have an art walk along the river, installing various large-scale art pieces on the river walk that would attract different users to the river. With that in mind, I have approached a new arts cooperative in Oklahoma City that is spearheaded by Laura Mastinot and Laurent Mastinot, the founders of Elemental Coffee. Laurent did the Scissor Tail, the bridge in Oklahoma City. They've started an arts cooperative called Factory Obscura, and their ethos is unconventional art, sharing it with different audiences, not having a traditional gallery setting. And I've approached them about pursuing a creative ideas grant with the Oklahoma City Community Foundation, and obviously working in conjunction with Robbie Kinzel and Oklahoma City arts community to basically seek a grant to install large-scale pieces on the river. Again, with the confluence, and pardon the pun, with the river in mind, of the Wheeler District, Scissortail Park, continuing core-to-shore development. There's no reason why the traditional recreation focus that's been on the river can't be brought into public art and to pull different types of people to the river in that process. So in closing, I just wanted to introduce our organization. We're very new in town. I've been making the rounds, just meeting various stakeholders. I was fortunate enough to meet with Chairman Mars and David Birch, and meeting with Robbie Kinzel, not tomorrow but the following day. I met with Mike Knopp with Oklahoma City Boat Foundation, and just have been kind of introducing myself around town. So I know that you folks are the administrative body that oversees the use of the river and grants permission and permits for various initiatives and projects on the river. So I wanted to introduce myself. And I just wanted to make myself and our group available as a resource for executing things that you'd like to see on the river. So in that sense, as much as I will be approaching you for permission to do things, I'd like it to be a two-way thing where if you have needs, maybe I can be the nimble nonprofit that can execute on those. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. I guess I might just comment a little bit. Thank you so much for coming down. Certainly, I really appreciate your enthusiasm for the river. I feel the same way about it and just think it is the crown jewel of Oklahoma City, and we have a lot of work to do. Cautionary tale is that we have several, and particularly one, existing 501c3 whose focus is really this type of, education, art, public awareness on the river. And I would encourage you to work with Mike at the Boathouse Foundation. And, let's, the way Oklahoma City has developed in the last 20 or 25 years, and I'm going to use a pun as well, but we've all been, pulling on the same rope or using the same oars. And to the best of our ability, collaborating and not creating competing entities, I think, is going to be critically important. So thank you for everything. All the items that you mentioned are really important as we, grow this asset. But I just hope we do so in a real collaborative way, because I think we're stronger if we work together.
Absolutely, and that is a pillar of what we're going to focus on. We're just marshaling resources. We're not in this to compete at all. So, and I hope that the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation can be an ally in that.
Great.
Any other questions? Very good. Well, thank you very much, Tim. We look forward to working with you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Do we have any other citizens to be heard? We are adjourned.